Hello, viewers. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Hone Our Dev Skills. In this Python programming language series, we will be focusing on variables in Python. Now, why do we need variables in first place? What are variables in Python? And also, what are the best practices or naming conventions that we should follow when we use a variable in Python? Are the key things that we would be discussing in this video. Variables are nothing but a reserved memory location, or it's like a container that holds a value, and it would also allow us to modify that particular value. Declaring a variable would help us to minimize any maintenance problems. When I say maintenance, it's code maintenance that I'm talking about. And also, we would be able to easily reference that particular variable at in multiple locations in a given Python program. So now let's say I have to define a variable called days in year, and I say 365 is the days in year. Now I know that some of you might argue that in a leap year it's 366, which is what I'm going to address as we speak within this variable reference. Let's say I declared a variable called days in a year, and as soon as I declare it, I would be able to access that here in a print statement. And as you can see here, it's printing a value called days in a year. Now, let's say, for our argument's sake, let's say that 2000 is a leap year, and I am in the year 1996. Say print, and then I say, this is how, by the way, you would refer it in a print statement. Let's say it, the year 1996 has, let's say, days in a year, days. Okay. Likewise, I would like to copy this statement and then replicate it for 4 more years. And that would be 7, 8, 9. And imagine that 2000 is a leap year, and therefore I would need to modify that in the program. Now, simply I would be saying like, it's a very simple program, therefore I'm going to modify it here itself. And I would say that 366. Now, if you see here, the first four statements got successfully printed with 365 days, and then the last one got printed with 366 days. So if I were to reference 365 instead of days in a year in all these places, then I have to go and manually overwrite at every location, which is not a good development practice. And variables comes to the rescue and would help us to, sort of address that issue in particular. Now, variables can hold different data types. We will be discussing different data types in a separate video. In this one, we will be focusing on naming conventions that we should follow when we declare a variable. So variables can start with letters, in simple words, A to Z in alphabets, or it can start with an underscore, like you see here, but it can never start with a number, uh, like 0 to 9 or whatever. Yeah. So it can never start with a number. To give an example, let's say I say message, fair enough. It can say it can work hi there, and then I can say new message with an underscore, and then that says hey there, and then I have another message one, and then I say hello there. I can also say a different message and say hola. So now these are the different variable naming conventions that we would allow. And if I, for example, execute this particular cell in the Jupyter notebook, it perfectly allows and there are no declaration issues. But as soon as I say one underscore diff underscore message, and then I try to assign a value called gh, and then as soon as I execute, you can see that it is throwing me a syntax error. The Python interpreter is throwing me a syntax error. So therefore, variables cannot start with a number or a numeric value in simple words. Now, in addition to that, we also have capital letters. Now, we would use capital letters to focus on constants in Python. For example, if I use pi and then pi is obviously a constant that is not going to change. It is going to have a fixed value. That I would use that in capital letters for declaring a constant in Python. Now, other key important thing to note is when you're declaring a variable, you should keep it concise and also clear, but also in a descriptive fashion. So what I imply by that is like imagine I can define a variable called fruit, say apple. I can say my favorite fruit of the year is equal to apple, or I can simply say favorite fruit is equal to apple. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have a lengthy variable name. I can also further shorten that with just fair fruit like that if I would like to declare. Now, these are the simple ways in which you would be able to declare a variable in Python. Now, also variable cannot be declared using keywords. Now, what I imply by that keywords is imagine that I import a module called keyword in Python, and now I use keyword list. Now, what it does is like it sort of lists all the keywords that are there in the Python. False or true is basically used to represent a Boolean value, which is either like a 0 or 1 sort of representation. Now, if I say false is equal to 1, it's going to throw me an error saying that syntax error cannot assign the value to false. Likewise, if I try to use, let's say, a break here, it's still going to throw an error saying that invalid syntax. So as you can see here, these keywords are sort of reserved words or functions that are sort of reserved words that cannot be used when we are declaring a variable in Python. Now, these are the key important things. Now, for you to note down, I've just declared some of the items that I was talking about here. Another thing is we cannot use spaces in variables when we are declaring. For example, new message equal to hi. I cannot declare that it says that there is an invalid syntax. Now, spaces must be substituted with, for example, underscore. That's the general practice that we would usually follow when we are writing any programming variable, when we define a variable in Python program. Now, these are the primary or important aspects to consider in Python programming. A variable can be anything. For example, it can hold an integer, like you say, for example, age is equal to 1, message is equal to hi, and then I can also say uh, divisor is equal to 1.2, just to declare that as a float number. There are different data types that are there, but these are perfectly fine. It's sort of allowed. What I imply by the different data type is, for example, if I look at the type of age, you can see it's int. If I look at the type of message, you can see it's string. If I look at the type of divisor, you can see it's float. So Python is intelligent, interpreter is intelligent enough to understand that based on the type of value that you assign to a variable, it would automatically, understand and assign a particular data type. For example, it treat that as an integer data type or a string data type or a float data type. There are different data types. We will cover that in a different video. Yeah, but this is how you should define a variable, and variables should be in this format. For example, a name of the variable followed by equal symbol followed by the value of the variable. So this is how you would be defining. You cannot define double equals. For example, message equals hi, Now that would be treated as a Boolean expression or an evaluation, as you can see here, and it is not going to work out for you guys. So you should start with a name followed by an equal symbol followed by a value of the variable that you would like to define. Thank you.